Last week we had a discussion of shooters, especially those in survival horror, and what it means to be able to see what's coming or know what's going to happen after you've played the game before. Pretty interesting. I did note that I wasn't particularly excited by Dead Space 2, and I certainly wasn't encouraged by the tagline, "Dismember, stomp, and impale your way across the sprawl." I thought that was a little lowbrow. Well, it turns out that over the last 10 hours or so, video game news outlets have been picking up this apparent viral online campaign for Dead Space 2. It's called Your Mom Hates Dead Space 2, and it consists of a series of films of supposed focus group members, all of the mothers from, as Electronic Arts claims, the heart of conservative America, watching footage of Dead Space 2. And as you might expect, their reactions are all manner of revulsion and these attempts at articulating their disgust. I think they are, at the end of each one, asked if they hate it, just to confirm that, yes, your mom hates Dead Space 2. One woman stammers, "This is a kind of game that'll make someone go insane." And the result is that two-pronged, I'd say. The first concern, a little bit more practical, say, is that Electronic Arts is devaluing this franchise by pushing it into a kind of beat-em-up, guts and gore genre, almost like a WWF track. And given the success of wrestling on, say, the Sci-Fi Network, maybe that's a big money bag, but as far as creating an artistically acclaimed series, I wonder if this is a little bit too far and potentially detrimental to selling this intellectual property in the future. But my problem particularly is with these marketers, whether it's Electronic Arts itself or some contractor, thinking they're so clever but not realizing that what they're doing is undercutting one of the pillars of the arguments for industry self-regulation. As we know, we've got the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, and it is completely voluntary in a way, sometimes, at least politically. It's a way to keep the government off of the industry's back. And a majority of shooter games are rated mature, which means that stores that are a part of the affiliation that is in charge of the ESRB cannot sell these games to people under the age of 17. Well, now, if your mom hates Dead Space 2 and that's a reason why you want to play it, you're probably not a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old unless you have some problems. Maybe you're 15, maybe you're 16, maybe you are close to that range, that threshold, but you're probably 12 or 13. Now, the ESRB explanation is that parents work with children and the family decides what the children should play. Maybe the parents aren't particularly enthused with the game that their child is playing, but they work it out. Action isn't necessarily something that a mom is into, so she will supervise and make some judgments. But now if you've got a game that a mother absolutely hates, that she literally, quotably hates, she becomes an unwilling participant, a patsy. She's forced to buy this game. She doesn't want to see her child play. Or what else is EA saying? That the normal restraints are circumnavigated and the child plays the game anyway because mom's going to hate it? What's going on here?
For me, it's definitely a way to stir up controversy, to build hype in a way. But much like yourself, I feel it's definitely not the right way to go about it. I mean, Dead Space 1 was very well received by critics and I think sold pretty well. So I don't really see this need to, just raise controversy about Dead Space 2. It's irresponsible as well in a way, as it implies that they're aiming the game at children, people under the age of 18, as the game will inevitably be rated 18 or R in America, I guess.
Right, that's the R rating.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that games in the past have had this perception that they're just for kids. And this is where a lot of the controversies in the past have stemmed from. politicians seeing Grand Theft Auto and similar games and believing that this is, designed for children to play. And yeah, with this advertising campaign, EA are just kind of playing into this sort of the ignorant people's hands.
Yeah, you wonder if EA are agents provocateurs of California State Senator Leland Yee, who obviously see this as a great boon for his crusade against industry regulation and his bid for government regulation of video games.
Yeah. And what's even more ironic was, if you remember back to the Medal of Honor controversy with the being able to play the Taliban against US forces. Was it Taliban?
I believe so.
Yeah, and they were renamed after a lot of pressure from parents and politicians. EA renamed the Taliban in the multiplayer mode to opposing force.
Good old OPFOR.
Yeah, so ironically, in response to controversy there, they changed their tact, but here they're trying to stir it up again. So,
and here it's blatant. I mean,
yes.
As we discussed, in order to be accurate, to be truthful, you call an opposing force in Afghanistan the Taliban. But here, do we really know if these are real moms? If they are, was this responsible? If you watch these films, it seems kind of cynical that they just lure these mothers in here. And some of these mothers seem like they're trying to be unfazed, and then they watch it and they're blanching, they're turning away, they're crying out. Would you subject your mother to this?
Well, it certainly depends on, they might have picked specific scenes or fragments of scenes, which isn't necessarily a good way to judge a game anyway. But EA certainly does have some history of stirring up controversy. As you mentioned earlier, Dante's Inferno. Though, with Dante's Inferno, they at least seem to have a few clever marketing things going on. Mm-hmm. I know they mailed a box with, I believe it was a noisemaker, to one of the more popular shows at The Escapist. And so the guy tore the box apart, too. And then it made a comment about his sins, which seemed relatively clever.
Sure. That's clever, but if that's successful, does EA need to dabble in such brummagem, in such tawdry tactics? And again, to talk about a great game that didn't necessarily need this kind of advertising treatment, Dante's Inferno was pretty fun. Ed and Jeremy and I played it at PAX East, and we stayed long enough to play a boss battle, and it was one of the most compelling boss battles we've ever experienced. Now, we weren't going to play this game by virtue of some stupid campaign going on about the deadly sins.
Or about getting your picture taken with a model either. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem like it's going to do particularly well for them. It's essentially your mom joke, which isn't going to get people who have generally gotten beyond that point too excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it, and thinking about the whole Medal of Honor thing, what they're doing is definitely not smart, but it does come off as sort of a little satirical response, if you will, to the changing of the name of the Taliban in multiplayer, and probably, if you go bigger, the whole censorship of video games. Technically, Medal of Honor is not supposed to be bought for your kids. Neither is this game. But you're going to have parents that are going to do it. And I think that's the statement that they're trying to make is, they're trying to poke fun at something, but I don't think it's going to come across very well.
That is interesting, Wes. This could be so over the top.
Right.
That what they're trying to say is, oh my gosh, it's going to twist your children into mass murderers, when in fact it obviously won't. Sure, a mom wouldn't like this, but a mom probably wouldn't like half of the shows that are on television that kids watch. So that could be the point too.
My mother
that's
doesn't like Doctor Who, so
yeah, that's just the impression I got from it, is that they're trying to take a poke at, you know, the whole censorship of video games controversy. They're not necessarily thumbing their nose at, but just kind of like, you know, sometimes it gets a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
seems
you
like-
know,
Seems like the complete wrong franchise to do it with, though. I mean, you know, you expect something like this from, you know, the guys behind like Duke Nukem or Bulletstorm, not Dead Space, which was, you know, to many people was one of the best games of the year it came out. I think it was 2007, 2008. So it just doesn't feel necessary for this series in the slightest to me.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not saying it's smart. That's just how it personally. That's how I kind of read it, I guess. But I just one person, so
it seems a likely possible conclusion. I just don't think that EA is a company that could pull it off particularly well. I could see Valve or Bethesda doing something like this in a much less irksome way, but not EA.
Yeah, I think my only comment on the satire bit would be it's not sharp enough. If there's a punchline, maybe they could have made it a little sharper. And as far as a game to be extolling this, maybe you'd think Mad World or No More Heroes, something that's essentially over the top.
Yeah,
and intended to offend.